Well. Good afternoon, John.
Good afternoon, Ben.
And how are you?
I'm as well as can be expected.
Are you slightly cheered up from this morning?
Well, I might in a minute because apparently there's a coffee for me downstairs. So I'm just about to go and get it.
Lucky bastard. Well, before you go and get it, introduce the show.
Yes,
I'll
I'd like to
introduce the other
welcome.
guy.
I'd like to welcome one and all to this episode 124 of Chasing Dissent Live. Yes, it's on a Monday. It's from me, the man formerly in the van and now hunkering in the bunker, and from Ben on the South Coast studio, as well as Ben.
The man in the corner. Welcome back, Adam.
Hello.
You're going to keep us in check. You're going to keep us under control. How are you this afternoon?
I will try my best. I'm doing very well, thank you, Ben.
Good. I'm really. I just saw you did some like star wipe transitions.
I did, yes.
That
Would
looks.
you like to see that?
Yeah, go on. Show us
we go, look at that.
Look at that. Look.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Spending time, effort, and money on making the quality of this show better every single day. And
That's right.
Look, the other man has just left an empty chair. So there's an empty chair for you there, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm happy. I'm happy. We are doing this now Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. Adam, you won't be here on Thursdays, will you?
That's correct, yep.
So Thursdays we'll have to act without the man in the corner, or otherwise I will have to act as the man in the corner. Which just puts more pressure on me, really, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
It does. Militant Mushroom says in the chat, afternoon, chaps. Well, good afternoon, sir. I hope you are indeed doing well. There are a few things we can look at this afternoon, though. And I'm going to, now John's back, I'm going to turn back to Chasing Dissent view, and I am going to give it over to the big man himself, Mr. Porter. What do you have for us to begin with today, John?
Yes, shall we begin? What shall we begin with?
Where would you like to begin?
Well, let's begin with let's begin. What you got showing there, Adam? What's that you've got?
That's Uncle Joe.
What's Uncle Joe saying? So, well, yeah, let's start with Uncle Joe. So Uncle Joe said the pandemic is over.
He did. Joseph R. Biden has announced on 60 Minutes that the pandemic is over. He says that we still have problems with COVID. The pandemic is over. And that's, in my view, and I think, hopefully, in the view of some Republican senators, going to have a lot of implications there, John. What do you think?
Well, it should have, because, to be honest, the rest of the world has really come back to normal.
Yeah.
As far as travelling goes. I don't think there's not many restrictions. I think Spain's now dropped their they've kind of dropped their requirements. They said that the documentation may not be checked anymore.
Yeah, but they've actually extended their requirements into November, that you have to have at least a negative test to enter the country, I believe.
Yes, but they've also said that they might not actually be checking. So yes, you need a negative test to enter the country, but maybe nobody will be there to check it.
Well, that was the wrong screen. But
so
that's interesting.
So Uncle Joe's giving this away on 60 Minutes, and he seemed to catch the White House on the hoof again, didn't he?
Well, he does that quite a lot, doesn't he, John?
He does indeed.
The White House are usually going, don't listen to Uncle Joe.
But it appears the health minister, his health minister's come out and backed him up on this one.
Well, yes, and this is the quote-unquote leader of the free world, announcing on a primetime television show during an interview where he said a lot of things, I might add. I mean, I think that this 60 Minutes interview is a show in itself with some of the things that Joe said. But he has announced that the pandemic is over. Those were his words. They're not our words. They're Uncle Joe's words. And people are not happy about it, are they, John?
No. They're in consternation. They're outside the White House saying they're still sick and still fighting and still wearing masks and still demanding things like they want long COVID to be declared a national emergency.
Why?
I think they've been thoroughly washed.
I think we've got to a point now where a whole bunch of people are, like you say, thoroughly washed and will never be able to let this go. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They will never be able to move on.
And let's... Sorry.
Maybe these people now need help, is what I'm thinking.
Yes, I think you might be right, because ultimately, like any disease that either has a pandemic or does not, or has an outbreak or does not, you never eradicate it unless it's there's only one disease that's ever been eradicated, allegedly, and that's smallpox.
Isn't that back in some cases?
Well, I'm not going into that, but you never eradicate it, so you learn to live with it, which is what we do with every other disease. We'll live with the flu. We get a flu season every year.
Yeah.
Apart from suspiciously 2020.
Oh, I mean, we don't talk about that, John. We don't talk about that, John.
Yeah, we get a flu season every year. We just live with it. So we have to live with it. But these people don't want to. They want eradication, and eradication of a disease of a virus is not something you can really do.
Well, no, and it's not something we should have aimed to do.
Oh, yeah, and especially one that has a relatively low mortality rate.
Yeah, well, especially in people sort of under the age of 70. Realistic terms are realistic terms. And yes, I understand that people are scared. I understand that people have been scared. But maybe that's more down to government messaging than fear of the thing itself. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Obviously, for some strange reason, we still have to be careful about what we're saying here. But
yeah, because we're not decrying anything. All we're doing is pointing out that if the world has diseases and we basically live with them and we manage them, and that's what we need to do here, because it's not something we can change in any great way by any kind of action or inaction.
No, absolutely not. And we have utterly destroyed our countries, our economies, our ability to manufacture, our ability to trade, our ability to live. Prices are soaring, fuel prices are soaring, and all of this could have been avoided. And it could have been.
Yeah, and this has nothing to do with Putin or Brexit. It's nothing to do with that. It's pure. The whole world is suffering collectively because of the actions that governments took.
Now, so we go back. Let's lean back into what Uncle Joe has said over in the United States. He has said that it's over, and in my view, and I think maybe in the view of some Republican senators, we might hear this week. If it is over, as Mr. Biden has said, then surely the pandemic-related powers that Mr. Biden and others have assumed are over too. Am I right? Because they were supposed to be during the pandemic and the pandemic only.
One would have thought so.
And that also includes the mandates, as in the entry requirements, which have been being reviewed by the CDC for some time since the rules, quote-unquote, changed in the United States. But there has been no motion on them at all. It still appears to be that these mandates are in place, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. But if they are part of a pandemic response power that has been ascribed for the course and duration of the pandemic to the president, then the president announcing that that's over surely means that those powers are over. And I would imagine someone like Rand Paul and the Republicans down there on the Senate floor are probably going to argue the same thing. Am I right?
I would hope so, actually. I would hope so.
Well, I would hope so too, because they have interfered with, messed with, destroyed the lives of so many people with these restrictions, not just here in the United Kingdom or over there in the United States, but in countries, especially Western countries all around the world. People and businesses have gone bankrupt. They have gone bust. People have lost everything. And that's not because of SC2. It is because of what the governments forced them to do. So, at the point where the government of the freest nation in the world, allegedly, the free leader of the free world is saying it is over, then surely those mandates have to end.
Surely it is indeed over.
But let's talk about, just for a second, let's talk about old Justin, right? Mr. Trudeau.
Who was being heckled outside
Canada
Downing Street, I
House.
think.
It was Canada House.
Well, Canada House, and they were shouting at him, saying he was a fascist.
Well,
Is that correct?
Well, in my personal opinion, he is. But I mean, we can't go much deeper than that. But let's look at the Freedom Rally for a minute. The truckers. Look what he did to them. He instigated emergency powers over there in Canada to essentially destroy their lives, right? Mm-hmm. Based upon what? I don't know. Based upon the point he didn't like them.
Yeah, well, based upon the point that they'd parked in his front door, basically. Well, not his front door, but the government's front door.
Yep.
And they cut off their funding. He froze their bank accounts. Stopped them getting diesel to heat their truck, to heat themselves because they were living in their trucks. And let's face it, it's cold in Canada at the best of times, but in the middle of winter it's like -40, and these guys had no heating.
Yeah.
And what was he trying to do? Kill them?
Well, you never know. He lies about people a lot, Mr. Trudeau.
He seemed to be having a good time the other night, though.
Oh yeah, getting all pissed up and singing Bohemian Rhapsody. Ho 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 ho! Look, I'm Justin, and despite the fact that I am demanding people have to have certain medical interventions in order to enter my country, I went and entered a country where that's not required. Hello, United Kingdom. Went around, did anything I wanted to, sung Bohemian Rhapsody, did not wear a face covering anywhere, including at the service of Her Majesty the Queen.
See, this is the part I don't understand, right? Because, and I've never understood this. Why can it be all right to wear one in one country and then not all right to wear it in another?
Well, it's science, John.
It's a different kind of science that I'm used to, but I'm sure it's science.
Well, all three of us here, and putting this all on screen. Let us pray.
The science.
The science has kept us safe with its jumbled and mismanaged messaging for the last nearly 3 years.
Shut up already. It's science.
There we go. We have prayed.
Right. Thank you. So moving on, speaking of things that have not quite worked out.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't quite worked out for Jerry.
Okay.
Or Jerry and Kate McCann, has it?
No,
because
it has not.
They took Gonçalo Amaral, the Portuguese detective, to court for libel.
They've been taking that man to court for years.
Yes, I know, but this went to the European Court of Human Rights.
Yes, it did.
And the European Court of Human Rights said to Jerry and Kate, no, he has not breached your right to in respect for a private and family life.
No.
And you are overruled.
Remember, Gonçalo Amaral was the original Portuguese detective in charge of the Madeleine McCann investigation. And he come to a conclusion that the parents very much did this.
Well, he maybe didn't quite say that. What he did, he criticised the British police quite dramatically, but what he did say was that he thought the parents may have been involved in it.
Okay.
Right, so be careful what we say.
Okay, my apologies.
He said he thinks they may have been involved in it. Now, they said they only took the case to court because they feared that it would hamper the search for Madeleine if they didn't. Now, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's like that little boy that disappeared in Greece.
Yeah.
God knows how many years ago. You're not going to find them now, even if they're still alive.
Well, no, and this is the most famous missing child in the world. Madeleine McCann. Everyone knows who she is. Everyone knows what she looks like, right?
Yeah.
And the British police haven't really ever even properly entertained the idea that the parents could have been involved.
And yet that's strange because in almost every other case where a child goes missing, the parents are always under suspicion.
Yeah, but remember, when your friends are Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, head members of the Labour Party, you are afforded a different level of scrutiny than, say, me, for example. Me being a working class man, not got a pot to piss in. If I had done the exact same thing, if I had gone over to Portugal and left my kids, potentially, and I'm not saying they definitely did, but potentially drugged my kids so that I could go out and have a good time and leave them unsupervised in a holiday accommodation, especially at the ages the children were, I would be in prison.
Yeah, you probably would.
No, I definitely would.
Yeah.
And the other kids, the twins, social services would have taken them off us immediately.
Yeah.
Right? We would be in prison. And it's very clear that the McCanns have been afforded a level of leniency that, say, you or I would not have been. Now, this is something I looked at a load over the past few years. And I especially looked at the Richard D. Hall stuff.
That was good, well thought out.
It was
the well researched, pertinent. The chap who was doing the body language investigation, that was quite compelling, I thought.
Yep. I've looked at the on the other end of the spectrum, the Netflix documentary Finding Madeline. Have you seen that?
No, I don't think I have.
It's like an 8-part Netflix series that it doesn't even really entertain the idea that the parents could have been involved in any way, shape, or form. And this is an issue that I have with the whole entire situation, the investigation, all of it, is that nobody looked there. And the cadaver dogs were a thing, right? Do you remember the cadaver dogs?
Yep. They identified an area behind the couch at the windowsill. They identified an area within a closet, I think, and they also identified an area within the rental car.
Yes, they did. And it has to be said that this stuff was not properly looked into by the British police. They simply scoffed over that.
And that's one of the criticisms that Mr. Amaral levied at them, certainly.
Absolutely. And so Gonzalo Amaral has written a book about this.
Goncalo.
And the McCanns have been suing him relentlessly and taking him to court and for years now, and they don't win. Because he's done nothing wrong. He was the lead investigator in charge of this, and he has his opinions, he has his theories, and he's entitled to express them even publicly. I'm just going to shift us over to Adam for a second and ask you, what do you think of the McCann's attempt to sue Mr. Amaral?
I don't know much about it, Ben, really. I mean, it's been such a long and involved series of incidents. I mean, it's just so confusing, isn't it? There's so much that's gone on over the years that nobody can really make head nor tail of it, I don't think, anymore. So...
Well, I would say to people that if you're going to watch the Netflix documentary, which I imagine the vast majority of people who have looked into this case have, because it was a big thing, Netflix documentary Finding Madeline, you also go and seek out Richard D. Hall stuff to look at the other end as well. Because, Definitely. As John says, he presents some very compelling evidence, and I will say evidence because he presents a lot of it, and he presents a very compelling theory. Now, who's to say that the parents definitely had something to do with it? I can't say for sure. I can tell you what my opinion is, but I won't. But when it comes to something like this, always look at every angle. Look at what everybody's saying and then form your own conclusion. And that's not just this. That's not just Madeleine McCann. That's everything, right?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree with you, Ben.
I thank you, Adam. I do. I thank you.
Yes. Indeed.
Should we move on from the McCanns then, John?
Yes. Okay. Moving on. So our esteemed Prime Minister Liz is jetting off to the States to speak to the UN.
I bet she doesn't have to quarantine.
No, I bet. Whoa.
Yeah, I'm joking, John. It's a joke.
Yeah. Okay. Let's not get into that. So she's jetting off to the UN to speak to them to ask for to ask for more money for Ukraine.
Why?
I don't know. But apparently she's pledged 2.3 billion of our money, another 2.3 billion on top of what we've already given them.
Money we don't have.
Yeah, money we don't have. And she's going to ask the UN for the countries there to put more money into the coffers, and she's going to ask for more action on climate change.
She does look like she's going handbag shopping.
That's her coming off a plane, is it not?
What action on climate change can anyone possibly take?
Well, I assume she's wanting net zero, or...
No, I mean real action that actually affects the climate. What real action can anyone take that actually affects the climate? Are you going
against the science here?
No, I'm asking a question. I'm asking a question.
You could stop breathing. You could stop breathing, because that would reduce your carbon output.
That's what Canada want, anyway.
Yep.
But other than that, what action can the human race take?
Eat. Don't eat. I don't know what you could do. I mean, and the thing is, no matter what anyone, even if everybody in Britain changed overnight and became net zero, right? When you see what China and India put out, it doesn't matter. Because China and India are currently still building coal-fired power stations.
They are. And
India's still dumping its waste straight into the rivers and oceans. They just roll up they've collected all the rubbish in their recycling vehicle, and they just reverse it up to the river and dump the whole lot straight in.
Absolutely correct.
Washed the way out to sea. So that's what you're fighting against. It's not us. It's not us.
Nope.
That's the problem here.
Nope.
If you think there is a problem.
Personally speaking, having looked at many angles, once again, don't just look at the people being blasted down your throat by the mainstream media. Look at other people, and if you are going to look at the people being blasted by your throat down your throat by the mainstream media, then look at their previous predictions and look at their previous models. And look, we did this. We did a whole segment about this.
Yeah, and I would strongly suggest you actually do look up and see that large glowing orb in the sky. Because I think that might have a lot to do with things.
I think you could be right, John. I really do. Looking at all angles and listening to multiple scientists and multiple models and multiple theories, I have formed my own opinion. And my own opinion is that those that are shoved down our throat are probably not the people to be listening to for me. But
yeah, each one to his own.
Each one to his own.
Yep.
I personally...
And remember, a consensus in science means absolutely nothing, because you're either right or you're wrong. And no matter how many people agree with you, if you're wrong, you're wrong.
And every other model prediction that has been given to us in the mainstream has been, John?
It generally has been erroneous, has it not?
Well, wrong, yeah. Erroneous, wrong, not correct, not true. It's interesting that these people still get airtime. So going back to why she's asking for more money for Ukraine. Why is she asking for more money for Ukraine?
I don't know, because I thought Ukraine were winning.
Well, that's what we've been being told for the last week or so. Ukraine are pushing them back. Ukraine are gaining ground again.
Yeah.
And
one has to be very suspicious, because as someone who has studied the Russian psyche,
yes,
they don't tend to have a reverse gear.
No.
So if they're going backwards,
they're actually going forwards.
It's maybe because it's a trap.
It's a trap, as Admiral Akbar would say.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd be very wary about. I'd be very, very wary about being lulled into a false sense of security there. Yeah,
no, I'm completely with you on that. And Vladimir Putin is a sneaky bugger who is now in full cahoots with who, John?
Xi Jinping.
How long have we been saying this on these shows, John?
Oh, this one, I think March was the first video that we put out, was
Yeah, so we're right again, are we?
it? Yeah, but we don't like to feather our own nest or blow our own trumpet, do we?
So
We didn't have a rib removed like Ron Jeremy did.
what have we seen? What have we seen driving around in Russia, John?
Oh, we have seen Chinese military trucks
In Russia.
in Russia.
That's very interesting, that, isn't
Well,
it?
that remember they had this joint exercise, so it could well be just part of that.
Well, it could be.
Could be, or it could be an extension of that. You know, it's but it's interesting nonetheless. It does, and we've had Xi and Vladimir both saying that they are in complete alliance and completely aligned as far as the international situation goes. So that doesn't bode well for the West.
Yes, indeed.
And then, of course, Uncle Joe decides to threaten Xi by saying we won't buy from you if you keep playing nice with Russia. And it's like, well, who the hell are you going to buy from then, Joe?
Well, exactly
Because
right. Everything's made in China.
Even your iPhones are made in China.
Yeah, my vape here, made in China. My computer that we're broadcasting on, made in China. The screens we're using, made in China. It's all made in China. What, we're going to stop buying from them? Then we'll have nothing. We really will own nothing and not be happy by 2030 if we stop buying from China, John.
Yeah, I know. So there you go.
There you go, indeed. Adam's brought a story up here. What have you got for us there, Adam?
Yeah, I was just going to point out that I think Liz Truss has probably teamed up with the Wheeler Dealers with regard to the British aircraft carrier that broke down twice. She's probably gone to the US to ask for some assistance and some cash for that.
Having said that, right, it came out today that the US had a problem with one of its own aircraft carriers, didn't it, in San Diego in 2020. This is the one that burned for 5 days, and it appears that it may have been a member of the crew that set it on fire.
Deliberately?
One can only say yes, so there's maybe a story in there somewhere.
There may well be a video in there somewhere.
So anyway.
Right,
moving on. Speaking of fires, Amazon appeared to have removed all the solar panels and turned them off from on top of their warehouses because they keep catching on fire.
Well, is it the solar panels themselves that are catching on fire, or is it the battery storage?
No, it's the solar panels themselves.
Right, so look, we got it here. Amazon
there's
removes...
There's a picture of the solar panels on fire.
Amazon removes all solar.
Yeah, and people standing watching them burn.
That's very interesting, because all we do is we hear these net zero lot screaming about the benefits of solar, the benefits of wind power, the benefits of all this stuff. But in reality, it doesn't actually usually turn out to be a net benefit, does it, John?
Well, this renewable stuff seems to, apart from hydro, which is inherently safer because it's basically in water all the time. This net zero stuff, these renewables seem to have a problem with catching fire. Like, I mean, we see windmills burning all the time. They've got a big carbon footprint because of all the concrete you need to anchor the things, and then you've got the massive windmills themselves, which are made of plastics, which is a petroleum-based product, as far as I remember. And then they don't biodegrade very well. So what do you do with these massive windmill blades once you're finished with them? They kill an astonishing amount of birds.
Of course they do.
Yeah, I was quite surprised how many birds actually are stupid enough to get clobbered by a big thrashing windmill.
But Amazon are obviously going back to the grid then, so they're not staying off grid, as they would say.
Well, no, this is the data centers, isn't it? So, I mean, you've got what, Amazon Web Services. I mean, they need power, don't they?
What's that, Adam?
Just to interject there, on the Amazon website, they have reviewed their own solar panels as 5-star, and they've given the National Grid 1-star.
And yet they've removed the solar panels now. Okay. I think we might have to revisit that review.
I do. I think that review gets a video in itself probably at some point. Good old Jeff Bezos and his crazy warehouse and his stupid Lord of the Rings show.
Yeah.
But let's move on. I actually want to move on to a story which I hope Adam did queue up, and that's Holly and Phil. Yeah, he's got them there. Look, Phil and Holly have just been told they will have to join the queue in the staff canteen for lunch. That's a tweet there. But they seem to have broken their silence this morning. I was hoping
they seem to have thrown Holly under the bus, don't they?
Well, sort of. But they made a statement apparently this morning. I'm going to try and grab it. Give me a second. But they're essentially saying that they didn't jump the queue.
No, they're saying that they were there for filming purposes, aren't they?
Yeah, so the story here is from the Metro.
Ben, there's a great tweet from Domino's. Apologies to anyone waiting on their pizza. We've just received an order from Holly and Phil.
Fantastic. Yeah, you know what? Domino's Pizza, I tip my hat to you.
You know, it's quite astounding that a man who has cheated on his wife and hid his sexuality from the public at large for, I don't know, 12, 15 years or whatever, really comes to what looks like it may be a bitter end here by jumping a queue.
So, this is in the Metro. I'll read this out to you verbatim. Please know we would never jump a queue. Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield address backlash following Queen's funeral. So Holly
Look at this one, Ben.
Right.
Sorry to jump in there. This is Sir Philip May, the moment where Boris and Carrie are told to get back in the queue behind Theresa and I. Who the hell do they think they are? Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby.
That's another bit of queue jumping that was attempted this week, isn't it, John?
Yeah, don't jump the queue, Adam.
Sorry. Yeah, I'll get back in line.
So this happened this morning. On this morning, at the time we are live, Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield began Tuesday's episode of This Morning by addressing accusations that they skipped the queue to see the Queen lying in state. The pair ignited a media storm after they were pictured inside Westminster Hall on Friday without having taken part in the extremely lengthy public queue. Despite This Morning bosses issuing a statement to insist Willoughby and Schofield didn't skip ahead and were there to report on the event as media, a petition was launched calling for them to be removed from television. Speaking about the backlash, Willoughby and Schofield said they didn't take anyone's place in the queue. Willoughby explained, the rules were that we could be quickly...
No, they didn't take anyone's place in the queue. They completely avoided it.
Yes, that's true.
That's true.
Willoughby explained the rules were that we would be quickly escorted around the edges to a platform at the back. In contrast, those paying their respects walked along a carpeted area beside the coffin and were given time to pause. None of the journalists and broadcasters took anyone's place in the queue and no one filed past the Queen.
Can I ask a question?
You may.
The platform at the back was there for what reason? Because as far as I'm aware, no one, and I mean no one other than the official feed, was allowed to film or comment within that hall.
From what I understand, Holly and Phil were making some kind of piece that was aired this morning or would air this morning. She continued, we of course respected those rules, however we realised that it may have looked like something else and therefore totally understand the reaction. Please know that we would never jump a queue. Viewers slammed Willoughby and Schofield's statement, with many confused by the lack of apology. Holly and Phil really thought they could get away with that half-hearted explanation. No apology, claims their journalist, saying that they had a right to broadcast it when it was on every channel. Blasted one. Another rage, sorry, but what you're saying makes no sense. No other journalists walked down the VIP line. What were you there to record? If it was the queue, then that was outside, it was the inside, and then that's being done 24/7, so where is this footage? Echoing...
Yeah, and they can't be seen to be commentating on anything because they're inside the place where you're supposed to be silent.
And of course, yeah, the rules were very clear that once you're inside the Westminster estate, you must be silent.
Yeah.
You must be absolutely silent. No
so
noise.
Your apology, it's not even an apology, your explanation does not wash with me, Schofield and
It's not
Willoughby.
washing with me either, because what are they going to do? Stand up on the platform and go, I'm Philip Schofield, and right there behind me is the Queen, echoing all through Westminster Hall. That would have been
any.
That would have been a no-no, wouldn't it? That would have been a no-no.
Well, of course it would. Of course it would.
So like you said,
the whole thing's ridiculous.
So, like you said, what were they there to report on? I mean, it's ridiculous. Echoing a similar sentiment, a third fumed, "You are not journalists, and your excuse for being allowed in didn't stand up. You claimed you were reporting for the world when it was literally on every channel. Just apologise, hold your hands up, and say you're wrong."
Yeah.
And once again, I will add John's point to that, in so much as you had to be silent in the room, so how could you have been reporting?
Yep, it's nonsense. I mean, they could quite comfortably have sat in the studio, had the feed on, which they were perfectly entitled to do, and comment over it.
Yes,
much as we did.
Well, exactly.
We didn't jump the queue.
We didn't even think about getting in the queue, did we, John?
No, we didn't. We sat in our respective studios and commented on the Queen's funeral.
So, Adam,
which we were entitled to do, as the premise of fair use.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, Ben.
Adam, did you feel like jumping the queue or going to even see the Queen lying in state?
Well, to be honest, it was a once in a lifetime experience, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
I can see the positive side of people wanting to go, and that's up to them. But for me, I was busy in the garden.
Fair enough.
And interestingly, 5.1 billion people, according to the BBC, watched the Queen's funeral. 63% of the world's population.
That's the best viewing figures the BBC's ever had.
And it's also not true.
Yeah, exactly.
Shut up already! It's science.
I mean, I'm gonna quite I think confidently say that I do not believe 5.1 billion people watched it.
And I can't find a BBC article about that
either.
Actually,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I mean, I know this was. I know it was a British thing, but it does seem to have been. I mean, you've seen people in America saying every news channel was doing nothing but broadcasting the Queen's funeral.
Yes. Okay. I'm with you.
And then you've got all the rest of the world. I mean, India, Africa, China, Australia, Canada. I mean, I would imagine there's been a big stack of people watching it. 5.6 billion does seem a bit of a stretch, though.
Well, 5.1 billion, yeah, it's a big stretch for me. I just don't. I genuinely think that they just pulled that number out of thin air. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah. I think that's probably.
I don't even think 5.1 billion people in the world were awake.
Yeah, well, probably not.
No.
Anyway, right. Shall we move on? What are we on to now?
Yeah, I believe we should move on.
Right, there's a couple of...
There's one thing I want to move on to very quickly. And it's something we sort of covered yesterday, but I think it's worth talking about, right? And that's Judge or Lord Justice Saini. Because you were talking about Philip Schofield being, closeting his sexuality for years and years and years and years. But it turns out that in some way or another, it appears that now imprisoned convicted stalker, journalist and broadcaster Alex Belfield was also closeting his sexuality and has not been able to out himself by his own choice.
According to the judge, it appears that way because what was it he said? He said, you as a member of the LGBTQ plus community cannot use that as a defence that you were not horrible to this person. Cannot use your sexuality as a
defence for homophobia.
Defense. Yeah, basically. So it seems to me as if that he's saying that Alex Belfield is gay, and I didn't really know that. I didn't really think about it. It doesn't change my opinion of the man either way.
No.
It certainly doesn't seem. Well, it certainly seems to have changed Mr. Vichi's opinion, though.
Oh my God, has it? For those who don't know, Charlie Veach is a YouTuber with around 250,000 to 300,000 subscribers. He's one of John's lot, so he's Scottish, but he lives in Manchester.
Yeah, well, he's not really. He's a mank then, isn't he?
But he went in, didn't he, John?
Yes, it was a bit vitriolic.
Yeah.
In fact, it was much in the style of Belfield himself.
You know what? I'm with you. I'm with you. It was much in the style of Belfield himself. However,
It was the most ironic thing I've ever heard someone say.
it was. He definitely didn't leave us wanting for how he really felt, though, did he?
No, he didn't. But you know what? Before you start saying things like, rat face, eyes too close together and all that, maybe one should look in the mirror first. And think, oh, hold on, I'm describing myself here. I mean, the only way he got around that was by saying ginger.
Yep. And closeted homosexual. He made that point to say that
he
as well,
did.
didn't he?
He made that a point. I think it was, regardless of how you feel, he certainly put his cards right on the table
Yep.
there, didn't he?
Cards, table.
Yeah, see what I mean?
Adam's got the video. If
he's
you
got
play
a
that,
bit
can
of
we
a
hear it,
cheek.
Adam?
He's got a bit of a cheek.
I'll just try it for you. Let me try.
Try it at the very start.
Can't hear it.
No, okay.
Ah, well. You know what? But he is very, very, very... It's tell us what you really feel, Charlie. He calls him a cunt. He calls him rat-faced, eyes too close together. But some of the points that he did make within that 2-minute hell rant were salient. They were salient points.
Yeah, but, see, that kind of speech is actually probably likely to get you put in jail in Scotland these days.
Many types of speech are likely to put you in jail in Scotland these days.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the whole country's gone down the toilet.
You can't have a
Why
joke
did Charles
around.
Veach? Why did Charles Veach decide that he was going to get his 100,000 subscribers plaque in there?
Is that a gold one? Is that?
Yeah, that's
I
a
don't
hundred.
Oh no, it's just 100.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
but it's the only play button he would get because I believe the next one's at 1 million, isn't it?
Yeah, it is 1 million. So what? Well, of course he's just he's liking to blow his own trumpet.
Yeah, of course he is. He's like, I've got a play button and you don't.
If I get a play button, I'll stick it on the wall
Yeah, well, if
beside my maps.
yeah, and you'll have to send me one as well.
I'll take a photograph.
Oh yeah, I'll get a photograph.
Right,
I'll
okay.
get a photograph.
I'll make a facsimile of it.
Make a facsimile of the play button just for me, will ya?
Yeah.
Tell
Right,
Susan that it never arrived and get a second one sent.
There's a couple of things that we need to clear up, and we need to put the New York Post straight here, okay?
And usually the New York Post is the gift that keeps on giving.
It is usually, but it's gone awry here, okay? It runs a story that says Prince Harry forbidden from saluting Queen Elizabeth's coffin. No.
Well,
Prince
technically, yes.
Well, no. Prince Harry gave up his royal duties and titles.
Yes.
Right? And with that, he effectively gave up his position that would allow him to wear a uniform at these events. Now, I think he was given special dispensation by the king to wear a uniform for the vigil.
Yeah.
Right. Now, he's standing there in civilian clothes.
Yes.
You do not salute as a civilian. You only salute when you're in uniform.
Yes.
And it's not just the Queen's coffin he didn't salute. He also didn't salute something else.
The cenotaph.
Exactly.
So during the
as a former Royal Marine, he would be very conscious of.
Yeah, and I mean during yesterday's when they the procession when they paraded Queen Elizabeth's body through the streets of London, they passed the cenotaph, which is just near Downing Street, which is Britain's essential sacred war memorial. And those in uniform saluted it as they went past, and those who were not in uniform did not salute it. And Prince Harry, or Henry as his real name is, because we like to be factual on this show, did not salute the cenotaph either. And that's, as John said, because of the uniform policy, essentially. He's not in a military uniform, therefore he is not giving a military salute to the cenotaph. It's that simple.
Yep, it is that simple. And staying with the New York Post.
Okay.
Staying with the New York Post, we have California Governor Newsom has made a dramatic statement, hasn't he?
What has Governor Gavin Newsom told the world through the New York Post today, John?
He has told them that if Biden doesn't run for president, he will.
Governor Gavin Newsom, the guy that had a recall vote that he just narrowly pipped
Yeah.
is going to run for president.
Yeah.
Governor Gavin
If
Newsom.
Biden doesn't, and let's face it, Biden shouldn't.
Governor Gavin Newsom, the man who has citizens fleeing his state at an unprecedented rate and going to Texas because
It's even better than that. Have you seen the signs that they put up on the way out of California?
No.
Well, they used the Uvalde,
Yep.
right, and basically said, why would you move to a state that allows this to happen?
Governor Gavin Newsom is a bit scummy, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, look what he did to his citizens. Look at the how far above and beyond he went with his mandates, with his closures.
Yep,
and then
definitely.
we sat there and we compared his figures to those of, say, Florida, who after about 30 days went, "This is crazy."
They came out about there.
Yeah, they came out about identical, didn't they, John?
Yeah, they did.
What do you think of Governor Newsom then, Adam?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, he's a
Democrat.
He looks the part.
He's a Democrat.
He looks like a used car salesman.
He does.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't really know a lot about him, to be honest. I know,
You're going to have to bone up in your American politics
I
for
know,
the 8th.
tell me about it.
It's not.
I mean-
Put it this way: he's not Arnold Schwarzenegger, and even Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't great. Arnold was governor of California at one point, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, and so now we've gone from Arnold Schwarzenegger to
Although,
Gavin
actually,
Newsom.
He was married to Maria Shriver, wasn't he?
Arnold Schwarzenegger was, yeah.
Oh, I saw a story about her the other day. I'm going to have to dig that back up.
Okay.
Not just now.
Oh,
but
you can't leave us hanging like that, John. That is some juicy tidbits there.
Tune in tomorrow.
Look at that comment there about Governor Newsom. Earlier this month, he was trashed for wearing a fleece jacket in a seemingly air-conditioned room while urging California residents to save energy and amid a historic heat wave.
Yeah, he was telling them to turn off your air conditioning
While wearing a fleece.
whilst wearing a fleece. Yes, in a lovely, cool and air-conditioned room.
He filmed it during the winter.
This is Governor Gavin Newsom all over. It's rules for thee, but not for me. I mean,
He's
this dude,
another Como, isn't he?
this dude had restaurants opened so he could privately dine in them.
Yeah, he's another Como.
Whilst you were forced to stay home, California, Gavin Newsom and his mates went out, unmasked, I might add, and dined in restaurants whilst you weren't allowed.
Yep.
It's insane that this man would even consider a run for president. He is ridiculous. And, well, I say do it, because if he runs up against Trump, it's going to be an absolute poof. I mean, I you know, the assault, the beating, metaphorically, of course, would be bad. It would be very bad. You'd almost feel sorry for Mr. Newsom at that point.
Yeah. So going back to Sleepy Joe, right, for the funeral, Sleepy Joe decided he didn't want to go on the bus. He didn't want to go on the dignitary's bus. He wanted to take his car. So Sleepy Joe ended up 14 rows back.
Is that why we didn't see him?
Yeah, basically, because he was buried in the back, sitting beside some guy from Poland and South Korea or something like that. Whereas Trudeau, who went on the bus because he wasn't allowed to take his car, he got to sit near the front.
Ah, Justin, good old Justin. Hey, Justin is the gift that keeps on giving, really, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah. So so Biden then takes his car back to Downing Street.
Yes.
And obviously had a meeting with Liz.
Yeah, I saw that.
Now, there were reports that he got heckled on the way into Downing Street, and I didn't hear anything on the real video.
No, but it would be par for the course to heckle Sleepy Joe.
Yeah, but somebody posted a video and they dubbed "Let's Go Brandon" on it, and it never actually happened.
Yeah, see, that's sneaky. You
That's
shouldn't be
fair.
doing that. You shouldn't be doing that because, there should be enough people there to know when he comes in to just start chanting, "Let's go, Brandon!"
But nobody did. The only thing I heard was Biden.
There he
It's
is.
Biden
Look,
or something like that. And
Why-
then people
look at-
were all gushing. They were all gushy over him.
look at that.
What
He's
is he
playing
doing?
with his tongue. Why is
He's just
Biden
having
playing
a-
with his tongue at the
He's
ceremony?
he's just tasting the air, just to see if it's ready for a sniff.
Yep. I'm just getting myself ready. Where's the
Where's
kids
the quiet
at?
boys?
Where's the quiet boys at?
You can just imagine. I'm surprised nobody's done a pop-up with them popping up behind the quiet boys.
Where's the quiet boys? Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, he's a creepy old bugger, isn't he?
So Sleepy Joe just came here, and now Liz Truss is going there.
Yeah, but she's going to the UN.
She's going to the United Nations. Yeah.
Yeah,
She is indeed.
And this goes back to one of the articles we said earlier. You can't continue to have the UN in New York if
No.
you're not going to let Russia in,
No,
because
you can't.
You can't do that. And then there's other people saying, like the Chancellor of Austria said, he opposes the sanctions on Russia because sanctions shouldn't affect the countries that are imposing them. And he's got a point. He's actually he's put his sensible hat on.
That Viktor Orban.
Yeah. No, it's the Chancellor of Austria,
Oh, Austria.
not Hungary.
So-
He said, I oppose the sanctions because the sanctions are actually affecting the people that are imposing the
They
sanctions.
are though, right?
Yeah, well, he's right. That's what I'm saying. He's right. He's sensible.
So, do you think that Putin will ever restore the gas to full functionality?
Not until they stop the sanctions, because that's what he said. Well, that's like I said earlier. Putin doesn't have a reverse gear.
No.
He drives a car that's got 5 forward gears and no reverse.
No, yeah, no, absolutely. You're not wrong. And if a building or a barrier just happens to get in the way, he will just put the foot down.
Yeah. Speaking of putting the foot down, the German police pulled over a car the other day full of Albanians.
Yes, they did.
And they said, where are you off to, lads? And they said, we're going to England.
Just offer a joint to merry old England.
Yeah, and then they... I don't know what accent that was.
It was.
It sounded like Michael Benteam's potty time. But anyway, they opened the boot and they found a stinger.
Now, when John said this to me earlier, I was like, a stinger? What, you mean like that thing that they chuck down to pop the tyres?
No. Like that thing they put on their shoulder to take out tanks.
They found a Stinger missile.
Yeah.
An anti-tank missile in the boot. Just in the boot. The good old Albanians, here we go. Deadly Stinger anti-aircraft missile seized by German police for sale on black market came from Ukraine.
That does look great. I'd love to have a play with that.
Yeah, but do you know what? This leads me to a
Is
question.
that how did the Albanians pick it up in Ukraine on the way to England?
Yes. So why are they picking it up in Ukraine? Is this where our money's going, John?
Yes. Do you
Yeah.
remember again earlier on the show? What was it? At least 70% of all the aid being sent to Ukraine isn't finding its intended target. It's nearly as bad as Oxfam.
So what you're trying to tell me is this: it's ending up in Albanian people's boots.
It's ending up all over the world,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It's definitely not going where it's intended, as you said. And look at that: German police stopped a group of Albanians, asked where they were going to England. When the car...
missile! We go shut down Joe!
Oh yeah, we are going. We are. What is the
Chinese there, but
what is the Albanian accent?
Well, it's Eastern European, isn't it? So
So
it's going
it's
to sound like
almost
Russian
like
again.
it's almost like this. Like
It's
we are
probably like Russian, yeah.
we're
if you want
going to England.
That's Transylvanian.
I'd just like to point out.
out.
I'd just like to point out that we are equal opportunity accent mockers and destroyers.
We are, and like Adam said, that was more like a Transylvanian, like Count
Well,
Chocula.
I think Albania is not far from Transylvania.
Oh, we will go to Transylvania. Sort of like
Wow,
that.
look at that boot of that car. That's impressive, isn't it? What a stash.
What else is in there? What is that shit?
Ammunition, Javelin, Enlaw, and 84 launchers.
Jeez, oh.
You could down a civilian aircraft or blow up buses, trains from afar.
A for effort,
Certainly
boys.
could.
A for effort. John's getting a phone call. How rude.
I
That'll be
know.
the Ukrainian Ministry of Defence asking for their weapons back.
Please don't be calling me at this time.
Yes, well, the Ukrainian Ministry of Defence obviously want their weapons back.
Well, I think I'm going to give you what the last item on this brief list.
I was going to say, I think it's about time to start wrapping up, John.
Well, and this might be superfluous, but there seems to be a bit of a quandary over Tony Blair's hairs. So people seem to think he may have been wearing a syrup of figs, a wig.
A wig. Do we think? I mean, there have been full articles in the newspapers about Tony Blair's hair and whether or not it's a wig over the years.
Well, there's some dodgy pictures here, and it certainly doesn't seem to match.
Look at that, Tony Blair with the hair of David Pleat.
My God, he's not pretty, is he?
No, he looks like if Gollum were a human.
Yeah.
Hello, precious climate change.
Yeah. It's quick turned my stomach.
Yes, hi John, it's me, Tony.
So yeah, there you go. So Tony was, of course, the Prince of Darkness himself. Tony was there at the funeral. He'd be there to make sure that he collected.
As he walked in the room, just so, ho, 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 ho.
Was that trying to be like a kind of omen thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Ho,
Anyway.
ho, ho, ho.
Anyway, moving on. I'd just like to thank you, one and all, for attending this episode 124.
Yeah.
And are you queued?
I am now. You didn't give me much of a fucking chance.
So thank you, one and all, and see you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's all we've got time for this evening, so it's good night from me, and it's good night from him. Good night. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Stop playing with my bust!
Good night, everybody.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy.
You're a what?
A pianist!
Mwah! Good night, everybody.
You have been a delightful audience. So, good night. Thank you.
Oh, my bottom hurts. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Tim Bob.
Oh, I did love that hamster so. I took it into bed with me every night, you know.
Good night, everybody.
I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think I have to go now. I've been standing here for a very long time. I think the end of the show must have come and gone.
There you go. That's our solar system. You forgot Uranus. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening. You've been very nice to work to.
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.